You know the memes, it's like the person looking like this and then like all the like square root symbols above their head.
Keep going.
That's like what I think about when I think of like one day it's gonna be like me in a dark room with like scribbles on a wall, plotting like the dessert galaxy on like all these matrices of like, on a spectrum of like more eggs and less eggs, like more sugar, less sugar, more flour, less flour, and like plotting all the different things you can make on this 3D thing.
So it's more like Charlie Day.
In what?
In meme talk.
Oh, I don't know what that is. Hey everyone, I'm Claire Saffitz. We are in my kitchen in my cabin in the Hudson Valley, and today I am mixing it up and taking a recipe from Dessert Person and showing you how to spin it 3 different ways. So I'm using my Forever Brownie recipe and converting it into 3 unique separate treats, very different from brownies. It's just a really fun way to show how versatile one base recipe can be. The 3 spins on sort of any kind of basic brownie recipe. One is a skillet brownie sundae, and this is not just baking brownie batter in a skillet. It is really, I think, a cool way to take a recipe because I'm making the entire thing in the skillet. It's not like make the brownie recipe, pour it in a skillet, bake it. I'm actually just using the skillet itself to assemble the batter. Oh, Archie, sorry. Cat playing with a toy in the background. So spin number 1 is a skillet brownie sundae. I'm gonna do kind of a grasshopper version, show you how to flavor it with some peppermint extract and some chocolate mints. Number 2 is brownie cookies. So we're gonna add a little extra flour. I'll show you how to sort of adapt a brownie recipe into brownie cookies for like a chewy kind of fudgy chocolate cookie. Number 3 is basically chocolate brownie cake. So working in some egg whites. I have a couple batches of my Forever Brownie batter already made, and that's what I'm gonna use to show you versions 2 and 3, so cookies and cake. But because the skillet brownie actually gets assembled completely in the skillet, I have all my ingredients here, and I'm gonna show you start to finish how we're gonna build variation number 1. So number 1 is our grasshopper skillet brownie sundae. I have a medium skillet right here, 10 inches. Then I have all the ingredients for my Forever Brownies, but with a couple of small tweaks. So the malted Forever Brownie has malted milk powder. I'm omitting that here. And I'm adding to it a little bit of peppermint extract. And rather than the milk chocolate that's chopped up and added to the batter that's called for in the recipe, I have the same weight of chocolate mints. So these are like Andy's mints, which just like remind me of all grandmas everywhere. I love these. They're like super sweet, but the brownie itself isn't too sweet, and they're just creamy and delicious. And we're gonna make the entire thing in the skillet, so it goes from like stovetop to oven very, very fast. I have just a 1/4 cup of water, all-purpose flour, 6 tablespoons unsalted butter, 1/4 cup of neutral oil, kosher salt, peppermint extract, 5 ounces of semi or bittersweet chocolate, 2 egg yolks plus 1 whole egg, a 1/2 cup each brown sugar and white sugar, 1/4 cup of cocoa powder unsweetened, and 6 ounces of chopped chocolate mints. So check out our brownie episode. That gives you sort of a detailed step-by-step of the whole recipe. So I'm just gonna run through it again quickly, starting by blooming the cocoa. I'm gonna heat 1/4 cup of water directly in the skillet and whisk in my cocoa powder. Go ahead and add the cocoa. And this step, called blooming the cocoa, just brings out the flavor. So I added the cocoa once I saw the water steaming, so I knew it was hot, and now the heat is all the way down because we're gonna move on to melting the chocolate and the butter, and you just don't wanna scorch the chocolate and let it get too hot. Turn the heat down to the lowest, because now you're gonna add the chocolate and butter, and you don't wanna scorch the chocolate because it can burn easily, so we're doing this all very gently. And then just whisk that together until smooth. So once you have everything melted, and in fact, right when you see there's just a couple pieces of chocolate and butter that are unmelted, turn off the heat entirely, and then the residual heat will finish melting everything. And when you have a smooth mixture, you can add your sugars and your egg. Okay. Okay, so once you have your sugar incorporated, you can add the egg. And this is why you don't want the skillet too hot, because if If it is very hot, you could cook the egg. So go ahead and whisk this really thoroughly to incorporate all the egg. Oh, I forgot the oil. Oh my God. I promise I've made brownies before. I forgot to add the oil with the butter. I'm gonna add it now. I'm losing it a little today. Archie, I need my emotional support cat. We don't really need the heat of the stove anymore, so I can bring it over here. Again, I was supposed to add that oil when I added the butter and the chocolate, but I forgot. Even though I made these twice yesterday, it slipped my mind. So now I'm gonna switch to my spatula. So now I'm gonna add a little bit of peppermint extract. This stuff to me is pretty potent, so I would just add a 1/4 teaspoon. And then a little bit of salt. This is a teaspoon. Or is it 2? A teaspoon or 2. And then 3/4 of a cup of all-purpose flour. So once you have your flour well incorporated, the last step is just to fold in the chocolate mince. Basically, besides your measuring cups and any vessels that you use to hold the ingredients, it's just, there's one dish. And it's the skillet, and it's also your serving dish. So it is a really nice, fast, kind of fun, easy spin on any kind of brownie recipe. And now fold this in. This I don't want melted. I want to leave, they'll melt in the oven, but I want like distinct pockets of the chocolate mince. And this, let's see, the bottom of the skillet is like, it's lukewarm, just a little bit warm, not hot. I have the oven preheated at 350. I'm just gonna clean up the rim of the skillet a little bit because I don't want any batter to burn because it's in such a thin layer.
What if guests come?
Right, yeah, exactly. You want to serve a nice, neat looking grasshopper skillet brownie sundae. Keep calling it something different to figure out the official name. Just for the sake of our beautiful finished shot, I'm gonna give it a little wipe. I don't add any leavener to my brownies because I don't want a cakey brownie. So there's no baking powder or soda, but because it has eggs in it, there will be like a puffing kind of souffle action. Okay, so if you wanted to, you could like put a little flaky salt on top. That would be great. These are gonna go into the oven and bake for, I would guess, like 25 to 30. But we'll test it and pull it out. And then in the meantime, I'm gonna move on to my second and third variations on any favorite brownie recipe. In this case, my Forever Brownies from Dessert Person. Oh yeah, make sure your skillet's oven safe. So the second variation is brownie cookies. And let me just say that I haven't actually made this and I didn't have time to test it, so we're gonna see in real time if this turns out, but there's no reason why it shouldn't work as far as I can tell. So I have here a pre-made batch of Forever Brownies from Dessert Person made exactly according to the recipe. And to this, I'm going to add additional flour. I have an extra 1/4 cup here and a teaspoon of baking soda. This has the milk chocolate chopped up and folded in, and just by adding a little flour and a little baking soda, we're gonna get a dough that holds its shape so I can form it into cookies, and the baking soda will encourage it to spread, in theory. I'm gonna just stir, initially, the baking soda not powder, into the flour, and then stir the flour through. Now, obviously, if you're doing this with the brownie recipe of your choice, not the one from Dessert Person, the amount of flour could be variable, but basically I just want to add enough flour so that I can make a stiff enough mixture to scoop into balls like cookie dough. I have a stiff enough batter that I can make sort of mounds of this onto my baking sheet. So I have 2 spoons right here. I'm gonna use, I don't have a scoop at this location, so I'm just gonna use 2 spoons to scoop the batter into maybe like 1 to 2 tablespoon size mounds. So I just have like memories of watching my mom do cookies this way. So you scoop with 1 spoon and then just kind of slide it off with the other. No idea how much these are gonna spread, but I think I could probably, I don't know why I think this, but I think I can get 3 across. We'll see. It might do that thing where it all bakes into one enormous like brownie blob. When I'm recipe testing, I'm constantly like making judgment calls that I think I'm gonna regret, and then I usually do, but I just can't help myself. So it's like I'm usually spacing cookies too close together, or like not waiting for something to cool, or not lining a pan or whatever. We're gonna try this at 350, see what happens. 350 is always a good starting point, and then depending on how they come out, you can adjust. So if they spread too much at 350, I'll drop the temp and go 325 and try again. Or if they don't spread enough, I can increase the temp. Also, with brownie cookies, as with brownies, you don't want to overbake. You still want the center to be kind of soft and a little chewy. So I'll keep a close eye on these when they go in the oven. My guess is they'll take at 350 around 10 to 12 minutes, and I'll give the pan a little 180 turn.
And in 5, 4, action.
Okay. I just checked on the brownie that's in the oven in the skillet, and that's done. I'm gonna pull it out and put in our cookies, and I'll check it after 8 minutes just to make sure I'm not over baking. And I wanna show you what the skillet brownie looks like because it is nice and like crackled and shiny on the surface. So here you can see it got nice and puffed around the edge, and then I just love when the surface gets this kind of like just crackled, shiny, glossy, thin little layer on top. So this looks so good. And I'm gonna set it aside to cool, and then we'll serve it when it's still slightly warm with a little ice cream on top. And then this is a fun dessert because it's like, put it in the middle of the table, people just spoon out their portion of brownie and can add a little extra ice cream, and that's that. So cookies are going in now, and then while these are baking, I will show you version number 3. After 8 minutes, I rotated the baking sheet 180, and I was happy to see that they formed what looked like nicely shaped cookies. And it's been about 3 more minutes, and I just checked them, and I think they're done. So time to take the cookies out and then move on to variation 3, our chocolate brownie cake. Cookies are coming out. They can sit right next to our skillet brownie. And I think they look great. So they're still super soft, but the edge is kind of just firm enough that I can tap it and I'm not gonna mush it. And so these are gonna cool completely on the baking sheet. In general, like with additional flour, a brownie recipe is similar to a cookie recipe. It is like, people consider brownies a bar. It's like a bar cookie. It's in the cookie family. It's not so far off. So just with a couple tweaks, like a little more flour, a little bit of baking soda for spread, you can get to a cookie quickly from brownie batter. Variation 3 is taking brownie batter and making it into a chocolate cake, almost like a chocolate torte. Again, I haven't tested this yet. I think it should work. So what I have here is a batch of brownie batter, but with a couple of small tweaks. So from the brownie recipe and dessert person, I added only yolks. So the recipe called for 2 yolks plus a whole egg. I did 3 yolks. And then I took the whites from the 3 yolks and saved them. So this is all yolk, and then I have 3 egg whites right here. I also pulled out a 1/4 cup of granulated sugar from the recipe. So instead of a 1/2 cup of sugar, I did a 1/4 cup, and I reserved it right here because I'm gonna beat the egg whites, fold them into the brownie batter, and that's gonna give the cake its leavening and make this kind of light chocolate cake. Not flourless chocolate cake because it has flour in it, but something that's gonna be rich but not dense like a brownie. I should also say that this does not have the chopped milk chocolate at the end because I don't want my cake to have pieces of chocolate in it. And you might need to add an extra egg white. So you just wanna be beating 3 egg whites with a 1/4 cup of sugar. So these are at room temp. I'm gonna add them to my stand mixer. I always just add like an additional pinch of salt. The recipe already has some salt in it. I'm just gonna do this. I always do that to help whip egg whites. So turn this on low. This is a 9-inch cake pan. This is kind of a weird pan. This is like something that I got from my mom, who I think got it from my grandma. It has a removable bottom, so you can use a 9-inch springform. You want something with high sides, and I just brushed it with a little butter and then coated the pan in some granulated sugar. So that's our pan. Again, 350 is how we're gonna bake this. I'm gonna turn out my mixer. Once I start to see the egg whites frothing and turning white and opaque, I'm gonna start to stream in my sugar, and I just go a very, very light cascade of sugar, little by little, into the egg whites. So I have them on like medium high.
Does sugar act like little knives, and that's why it like breaks more?
Well, it dissolves because the egg whites are mostly water. And there's like, I don't really know what the science is. There's like a deionization thing that happens. I don't know, something to do with ionization. I don't really know. It's the whole thing. All right, now it's looking pretty like meringue-y, if you want to see this. So I have whipped these egg whites to stiff peaks, and I'm going to, I had trouble with this last time, try to remove the whisk. You don't want to overbeat egg whites, and in fact, I maybe went slightly too far here. Easy to do in a stand mixer, just because the egg whites will start to be a little bit dry and maybe difficult to incorporate, but that is a nice peak, nice stiff peak. So you can see 3 egg whites really turns into a decent amount of meringue. The meringue is filled with tiny little air bubbles. Those air bubbles are going to incorporate into the brownie batter and expand in the oven and lighten into a cake texture. The brownie batter is really thick, so initially I'm adding 1/3 of the meringue, and I'm going to stir it through very thoroughly, and you'll see the color will lighten. It'll be like a more kind of just a lighter brown, and then it'll be easier to just fold in the remaining meringue very gently. So this is like more of a stir than a fold. So you kind of sacrifice some of the egg whites initially. They will deflate. So the idea is just to loosen this up a little bit, be able to fold in the rest of the meringue. So once you have that first third fully incorporated, add half of the remaining meringue, fold that through, and then the rest of the meringue, same thing. Having not tested this, I can say I think it needs more egg whites, and I overbeat the meringue a little bit. So you're taking basically what's on the bottom, moving it to the top, and now you can see we have something that looks really cake battery. It's really light. Maybe it doesn't need more egg whites, we'll see. So the egg whites are fully incorporated. You don't want to overmix anytime you're incorporating egg whites. And I'm gonna just scrape this into the, yeah, got it just in time. Then smooth the surface and work it into the sides of the pan. I think this is gonna be really good. I'm feeling good about this. I'm gonna pop it into the oven. I'm still at 350. And I'm gonna let it bake until it's risen, the top is dry and kind of crackly, and I'll do a cake tester into the center, and it's done when it comes out clean. So we'll see. I'm guessing it's gonna be around like 30, 35 minutes, but we'll see. The cake has been in for 38, 40 minutes, around there, and I can smell it. It smells done, and I just peeked. The surface has gone just from shiny to matte, and I'm pretty sure it's done, but we're gonna test it. So you can see it doesn't look like wet and shiny anymore, and it's nice and domed. Do this, clean tester. I mean, there's maybe one tiny crumb on it, so this is done. This looks great. It has risen very nicely. I don't know about you, but I feel very excited to know that these are all things you can make with simple brownie batter. And I know they're gonna be delicious because I started with the Dessert Person Forever Brownie recipe. And now I'm gonna just do a couple finishing touches and we'll sample all 3. So I'm gonna do some powdered sugar over our chocolate cake, and then just a little ice cream on our brownie, our peppermint brownie skillet thing, whatever we're calling it.
You want to turn the AC off?
It is gonna make it drop. No, it's okay. I'll account for the airflow moving in this direction.
Play the wind, I like that.
There's a little bit of like fat on the surface that might take some of the sugar, but that's okay. I'll just put an extra generous coating on it. Can we turn off that AC real quick?
Copy.
Okay, that looks good. Exciting news. Vanilla was on sale at the store for $2.39. So we got a couple pints. So I'm gonna do one generous portion of ice cream in the middle, but of course this is meant to be shared. So if you are setting this on a table with guests, you can also just pass the pint of ice cream around and everyone can take more. That's not how I imagined that was gonna look. We're making a snowman. I'm going to taste our brownie cookie. I think the spread is really nice. They're thin. The edge is firm, but the center is still soft. Like I can bend it. So that's, to me, the right level of bake, the right doneness. I want like all the things that I love in a chewy brownie, but in cookie form. So I'm going to show you. I also really like seeing the little raised areas where I know there's a piece of chocolate. These are excellent. It's really not like eating a brownie because they're lighter. They have, because of that baking soda in there, they're a little bit airier, but it has all that great texture, that chewiness, the little crisp edge, and also like intensely chocolatey. Next, I'm gonna go with the Skillet brownie. So I'm gonna spoon out, maybe just from the edge, and I'll show you what the interior looks like. And like, we didn't grease anything on the bottom, so it's not the kind of thing that you'd be able to unmold and then slice into wedges or anything. So this is something where like everyone is gonna have to take their little bit just directly from the pan. So really nice, almost like still slightly gooey, but great kind of fudgy brownie texture. You can see the little areas where I had those chocolate mints. So I'm gonna give just a brownie part a taste. I just got a little piece of the chocolate mint. I'm very glad I didn't put any more peppermint extract. In fact, it could even be a little less. So if you don't want a super pepperminty flavor, go with 1/8 of a teaspoon rather than 1/4 and do even less. I feel like the peppermint needs the cold ice cream to kind of balance it out, and really, really good. I think this would be a tremendous crowd pleaser as a dessert.
Claire, you should zoom in on those chickens right now. What they're doing is so cute.
I should zoom in.
Well, you should, you know, with the fellowship of your crew, zoom in on the chickens.
Okay, I'm removing this cake slice. I can tell from cutting into it that it's, ooh, guys. It's not a brownie. It definitely has more of a crumb, but to me, it is that style of like very moist, but still light, like European style chocolate cake you'd find in like a Viennese cafe. Looks really nice. Isn't baking cool? It's like you can make so many different things. It smells good. I know it's gonna be good. Wow. It's like very intensely flavored and very, very chocolatey. We have both cocoa and the melted chocolate in here. But the texture is still very light, and so it's a nice balance, I think, between something like intense but light enough that it doesn't, like, it's not so intense that I can't eat more of it. You know, that's not the kind of chocolate dessert that I like. So it is a really elegant chocolate cake that like you would never know could have been brownies if you had just not added the egg white. So really cool trick. I feel like there's so much great learning about baking in this episode, because with just really small tweaks, you can go from one thing to another to a third thing. So it's like, this was just a little more flour and some baking soda. This was a different mixing method with a couple different flavor additions. And this one was separating out the egg whites, adding a couple, whipping them with some of the sugar that I reserved, and baking as a cake. So this is really fun, and to me makes me like reconnect with what I love about baking, which is that it's like kind of a miracle. And that's always exciting. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. This is all the ways you can use brownie batter, or just a few of the ways you can use brownie batter. My vote goes to the Forever Brownies and Dessert person, but use whichever one you really like, and go wild. Go play around, experiment, and that's what baking's all about. So thank you for watching. Thanks for coming to visit at the cabin, and we'll have more episodes, and like and subscribe. And cut.